around. This is technically for Model A's, but as you can see, there's plenty of stuff for any car, really. Never know, I might find something for my truck. Take a look around and see what we can find. Maybe there's some treasures still here. It's not only a swap meet, but a bit of a car show as well. This will be cool. See a Viper, Corvette, Mustang, little surfer van, and of course a beautiful classic. Ford Model A. Is that a town car? Beautiful. Here's what Diggy really wants. Yeah. You gonna buy that one?
Oh, absolutely. Wife's gonna be pissed.
We'll find you one. We'll rebuild it after Finnegan's done. So this is my one treasure I found at the swap meet. What is it? It's a carburetor. A Holley 94 carburetor from a later version of the flathead than what I have, but I like it because it has this right here, which is a built-in vacuum port, which you can use to operate one of a few vacuum assisted things on the car, like the wipers. The windshield wipers are vacuum operated. The vacuum advance on the distributor is operated, could be operated here. And also this could be a port for where my PCB system plugs into. But anyway, so I have already rebuilt one of these. The original one that came with the motor. I rebuilt it, you know, one of the first things I did before I even decided I was going to do a channel, so I didn't get any footage of that. But I do actually have experience in somewhat rebuilding these. Now, the reason why I got this one is, one, it's in better condition than that one. And it has really, really nice butterflies that are shaped really well, so I don't need to rebuild those. And there isn't any play in the bars. Basically the gap between the bar for this butterfly and these butterflies down here and the housing is there's no movement, so that means I'm not going to have any leakage. That's really good. But also I did decide to do a 2 carburetor setup for this engine to increase the power a little bit, so I would need a second one. Now currently I have 3 because I already got a second one to rebuild, and that's what these parts are from, just waiting to rebuild it. But now that I have 3, I'm going to kind of combine the best pieces of each one of them. So I'm going to get busy taking this one apart to assess its insides, and you guys can watch me do that. So without any further ado, let's get this taken apart. Ooh, that is a beautiful looking float. Ooh, all shiny and brass as compared to, you know, this one that's got corrosion on the exterior of it, but this one's still good. All right, so old gasket here. All right, everything. Surprisingly, this looks like it may have been rebuilt at some point recently. It is dirty though. Don't know what the purpose of this is. This spring seems like an extra. Maybe it's an improvement and I'll incorporate that in my other ones. But anyway, all right, let's get this side spring off. Carefully, because of course it's on a spring. Okay, so here we go. So how a carburetor works, for those of you who don't know how a carburetor works, because all vehicles nowadays are fuel injected, so you don't have a carburetor anymore. Well, it does the same thing, just without a computer. It does it all by vacuum. So like I said in an earlier video, an engine is basically just an air pump, right? Sucks in air, lights it on fire with some fuel, and then blows the air out. Well, there's constantly that air pump being, you know, there's an intake and an exhaust. There's constantly the intake coming in here. There's a vacuum that's occurring within the engine. And of course, nature abhors a vacuum and it wants to fill it as soon as possible. So as that wind is sucked in here, Venturis, which are right here, air is drawn across them and it sucks fuel out of this reservoir here, okay? These down here, those brass circles you see down there, are jets, and they allow air to be sucked out and sprayed down through these trumpet-like fixtures here, and that mixes the air and the fuel, then mix, go into your cylinder, and then the spark ignites it, okay? So a carburetor on its basis is just really a way to mix air and fuel to get it in there so it will burn. Now, this pool here is where your gasoline comes in through this port here. Now, just like the float in your toilet tells the toilet when to stop putting water in the tank, this float here tells the fuel pump when to stop putting fuel in this tank. And it does that by pushing it looks like it's stuck, a little pin in here. As this rises in the fuel, it pushes a pin up and that plugs up this nozzle so that fuel can't pass through anymore. And then as the fuel level goes down and this drops, it allows fuel to re-enter the chamber and keep this tank constantly full so you don't run out of gas and your engine stops, okay? So first things first, we need to get the pin out of here. And we need to test our float in a little bit of hot water to see if it leaks. Okay, so I'm gonna hold this in hot water. As the air inside of it expands, it's gonna wanna escape, and if there's any holes in it, then we'll see bubbles. Try not to burn my hand here. I don't see any bubbles, and the brass is getting hot, so here we go. All right, so our float is still good. That's good. Set it off to the side with its pin. Now, as I said, this is that pin that will plug the hole up there. Looks a little bit dull, and there's a ring around the outside of it. Don't know if you can see that, but that can be replaced very easily. Okay. Now we're removing all of this stuff, one, to assess condition, but also I'm gonna be cleaning it. So where's my big screwdriver? I need a big screwdriver for this, big wide screwdriver for this, because some of the pieces on it are really wide. Let's do this. I think this is the widest one I have. There we go. Okay. So all of these brass pieces don't really need to be cleaned, but there is a little itty bitty washer right there that will need to be replaced. Okay, so now do this apart. This is the choke mechanism. As you can see, you can pull this from the interior and turn the choke on. Choking, of course, is when you're actually, like choking a person, you're cutting off the air from the lungs or air pump. So that makes when it's cold or early morning, or when you're starting it for the first time, you choke it off sometimes because that makes it run a little bit rich, more fuel, less air, because you've pumped the the accelerator a couple times and sprayed some gas in there, so that makes it light up a little bit easier. Now you have to be careful with this one because this is on a little detent. And here's that little detent right here that can just shoot out because we've got a spring here. Itty bitty spring. Okay, so that basically makes this top piece disassembled because I'm not going to take this out, the butterfly out. I'll just wash it with all that inside of there. Okay, moving on to this. All right, so main body of the carburetor. All right, accelerator pump, Venturis. Keep in mind whenever you see old cars talking about 4V, 2V, something like that, it doesn't mean 4 valve or 2 valve means 2 Venturis. So this would be a 2 Venturi double barrel carburetor. Valves, as you saw from when I was working on the engine, are a completely different thing. So let's go ahead and take the Venturis out. Okay, now this right here, little spray nozzle, is where your accelerator pump, when you push on the accelerator really fast, it actually compresses this accelerator pump, and that squirts in an extra amount of fuel because as this works, these Venturis work off of the vacuum coming in. If you didn't have an instant shot of fuel when you pushed on the accelerator, your engine would bog down because you're allowing in you're opening up the throttles a lot and letting in a lot more air. So it takes a minute for it to balance out with the amount of fuel that's in there. So you give it a quick squirt, and this is where those come in, right here. And there's a little gasket on that as well. And down inside of there, let's hold the Venturis in place, is another little needle and seat to be replaced. All right, so now let's get these Venturis out. Okay, these are jet needles that will make sure that we clean. It's a good handy use of having a little threading needle. You can get inside of there and make sure it's cleaned out. Okay, some more jets. Put their own little gaskets. Tell you what, I think this thing may have been rebuilt before it was ever used, or it's brand new off the shelf. I don't know what's going on, but those gaskets don't look like they've ever been used. But do we trust that? No, we don't. We'll go ahead and replace everything. Lord knows how that's going to see. So anyway, this is what one of the Venturis looks like. All right, now, and we're going to take out the main jets here and the power valve. But it's okay if they get damaged on their way out because I'm replacing them with different jets. One of the things you have to be conscious of when you are changing your intake scheme, like me going from a single carburetor to a double carburetor, is the engine is still the same size. So the engine is still going to suck the same amount of air whether you've got one carburetor or two. So if it's going through one, obviously you have more air going through a space than with two. So your vacuum is going to be higher. So all of your settings and all of your orifices in this, basically all of your valves that are pressure related valves need to be set to a higher value before they open or close, as opposed to a dual carburetor. Okay, so you have basically a dual carburetor having the amount of air pressure or vacuum that's in this carburetor. So therefore you need to alter the release settings on all of your like your power valve and I think that's the only one for power valve, but like your main jets need to be I think bigger than these. Either way, the research I've done has been, yeah, these are 52s. I'll have to see what size I have correctly on the other ones. But anyway, so you need to be conscious of when you're changing something, what does that change in the entire system? So that's why we're taking this apart, to get it set up specifically for a dual carb setup. Okay, so that, oh yeah, accelerator. Oh yeah, that's gonna be replaced. So this is originally leather. And of course, if this has never been used, which it slides around really loose in there, maybe if it were soaked in fuel, it would swell up and it would be good. But I have a replacement that's rubber and works with today's fuel with ethanol. So we can replace this. Sad, but you know, we can replace it. If this never got used, well, oh well. Now, one of the interesting things is down inside of there, which you probably cannot see, there's a little ball held in by the tip of like a C-clip, and that ball is makes a one-way valve. So when the pump comes up, that ball is allowed to lift and allow gasoline from this tank to fill in here. And this is its natural resting position. So when you push down, you pump, that ball goes down into position and prevents gas from coming back in here and sprays it out into here. So like I said, this is your accelerator pump. So this is what gives you that spray of gasoline right into the carburetor when you push the accelerator pedal. So we need to get down inside of there and get that spring out and not lose that ball. All right, so after about 3 minutes of scraping, I got it out. So this little clip right here, and it's just as fun to go back inside. Now, we're gonna turn this over and we're gonna get that little ball out. Maybe. I can see it down there. Something to poke it. What do I have that can reach down there and poke it? No, not long enough. Let me go get something that can poke it. How about an itty bitty screwdriver? So small, you can barely tell that it is a flat. Here. There it is, little steel ball. Okay. We don't want to lose that either. Okay. All right. Takes care of up here, except for that. I'll take that off later, I guess. Now let's get the base of the. All right, so there you can see the two barrel butterflies down there that as you open the accelerator, it allows more air in. And this is the power valve. This gasket. So work for some reason. It's on there pretty good. Here we go. Okay. And that feels like it's stuck in place, so good thing we're replacing that. Now normally they have the inches of mercury that they release at scribed into this shiny rail here, but I don't see anything for this one, so. Yeah, right. Okay, so that's that taken off. This is all separated, and that can go get cleaned. And then really all that's left here is to take apart the pieces that are on this butterfly, and we'll stick. Oh, let's not forget these. These are your idle jets, and these are set. When you hear about an engine running rich, engine running lean, it's typically these. Pretty good still. It's usually these idle screws that are messing up your mixture. And basically under, you know, no load, your engine just barely running, the set of these, see these two holes right here is where under no load your no load means that you have these are just shut, right? Your butterflies are shut until you push on the accelerator. Well, your engine needs to keep running. So with these closed off and no air coming through through here, this is creating a vacuum through these two holes back up inside, and that's allowing those Venturis to work. So this is allowing the air fuel mixture to come through and allow your engine to continue running. And depending on how far you have these set in or out, depends on how much of that air fuel mixture is allowed to go in during idle. At least that's how I think I understand that it works. Please feel free to comment in the comments below if I am completely off base. Doesn't bother me, it works. I'll put it back together correctly and put it on the settings that everybody tells me to, and if it's running rough, I'll watch some more videos and figure out how to make it work better. But do feel free to comment and fill me in on my ignorance, should I be displaying it. So anyway, this is now gonna go into a bucket of Berryman's carburetor parts cleaner. Let's get the remnants of the rest of this gasket off, which the Berryman's would probably take as well. Leave that in there for an hour or so and come back and clean it off. Ow, let's let the Berryman's take care of that instead of me just stabbing myself. All right, see you in a little bit.